Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This week we are tackling a pretty fascinating figure, Benjamin Franklin.
Definitely fascinating.
Yeah, most people, I think, when they hear that name, they immediately think founding father.
Right.
But there's so much more to this guy, right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, he was a scientist, inventor, writer, diplomat, like the list goes on and on.
Yeah, a true polymath.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things that just makes him so interesting to study. He was just this, endlessly curious guy, and it led him to be successful in all sorts of different areas.
Yeah, okay, so we've got a great stack of sources for this deep dive. We're using excerpts from Benjamin Franklin, founding father and polymath.
Hmm.
And I've got to say, I'm already hooked. I mean, one little fact that I came across while I was prepping really blew my mind. Franklin had only 2 years of formal education.
It's pretty incredible.
2 years. And he accomplished all of this. It's unbelievable.
It was pretty remarkable. I mean, he was born in Boston back in 1706, one of 17 children. Can you imagine
Oh, my God.
that family reunion?
Yeah.
And he ended up being apprenticed to his brother, a printer, at just 12 years old.
Wow.
But this is where things start to get really interesting. Franklin, he was a voracious reader, just consumed books. And it's really this self-directed learning that set the stage for, I think, his, incredible life.
So wait, are you saying that because he didn't have this traditional formal education, it actually gave him this freedom to just kind of explore whatever he was interested in?
Exactly.
He wasn't bound by a set curriculum.
Yeah, it's like he was free to just follow his curiosity wherever it led him. He was reading books on science, philosophy, history, literature, you name it. He was soaking it all up. And that, I think, is really key to understanding his success,
Yeah.
because he developed this unique ability to connect ideas from all these different fields. He could see these patterns, these relationships that, others might have missed.
Yeah. Okay, that makes total sense. And it's probably a big part of the reason he was such a successful printer and publisher too, right?
Right. I mean, he bought the Pennsylvania Gazette in 1729, and he turned it into this thriving publication.
Absolutely, yeah. And Poor Richard's Almanac, he published that for 25 years.
Wow.
And it was this huge bestseller, just packed with proverbs, weather forecasts, practical advice, everything. It really gives us this amazing glimpse into daily life in colonial America, I think.
It really does. And it shows his wit, too.
Yeah.
He really understood human nature, right? And who doesn't love a good, witty proverb?
Exactly.
But, okay, we've got to talk inventions.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets really fun.
This is the good stuff. So beyond the printing press, Franklin was a prolific inventor. The lightning rod alone, that would have cemented his place in history. Right?
For sure.
But it's really just the beginning.
Yeah.
So, okay, lightning rod. It's genius.
All right.
But I got to admit, I always just kind of took it for granted. It's oh, yeah, that pointy thing on top of buildings. But when you really think about it, it's pretty remarkable. He figured out how to, harness electricity, this powerful, mysterious force.
Yeah.
To protect buildings from lightning strikes.
Yeah, and it's important to remember, this wasn't just some lucky guess, right? This guy was conducting these crazy, dangerous experiments with kites and thunderstorms.
Really?
Oh, yeah. To try to understand how electricity worked, he was risking his life for knowledge.
Oh, my goodness.
That, I think, just shows his dedication to scientific inquiry.
Talk about a risk taker. And it worked. We still use lightning rods today, centuries later.
That's right.
That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. But he didn't stop there. He also invented bifocals.
Yes.
Which, I wear those.
I do too.
I can't imagine life without them.
Oh, tell me about it.
So before bifocals, people with both nearsightedness and farsightedness, they had to switch between multiple pairs of glasses.
Oh, yeah. A pain.
To pain, right. And Franklin, who, he was experiencing these vision problems himself as he was getting older, he was like, there has to be a better way. And bam, bifocals were born. It's the simple but brilliant invention. It's literally changed the way people see the world.
Literally, yeah.
Okay, so I'm sensing a theme here. This guy sees a problem, and instead of just complaining about it, he's like, all right, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and invent a solution.
Wow.
He was this one-man problem-solving machine. And speaking of problem-solving, we've got to talk about the Franklin stove.
Oh, yes. The Franklin stove, another fantastic example of his ingenuity.
Yeah. So back then, fireplaces were like the main source of heat in homes, right?
Right.
But they were so inefficient and honestly kind of dangerous too.
Yeah, a lot of house fires.
So Franklin, he designs this new type of stove with this hollow baffle that like radiated heat more effectively and it dramatically reduced the risk of fires. He revolutionized home heating.
Totally.
And I mean, the impact of that invention, we still see it today, right? Like I love a good wood-burning stove on a chilly night.
Oh, it's the best.
It's so cozy, it's efficient, and I bet you anything, it all goes back to Franklin's innovative design. It's just fascinating to me that we're still benefiting from his inventions all these years later. It just speaks to like the lasting power of his ideas, you know?
Absolutely. And, it really highlights something crucial about his whole approach to invention, right? He wasn't just like tinkering in his workshop for fun.
Yeah.
He was driven by this desire to make people's lives better,
Yeah.
to solve actual problems.
Yeah.
He saw a need and he used his creativity and ingenuity to meet that need.
Okay, so we've got this incredibly inventive mind, but it wasn't just limited to like practical gadgets, right?
Yeah.
This guy was a serious scientist at heart.
Yeah.
His work on electricity alone is, pretty remarkable. Think about it. Conducting extensive experiments, developing theories on something as fundamental as electricity.
Right.
Back.
Back then, yeah. It's groundbreaking stuff. And I think it's important to remember the context here, too. Like, electricity was this mysterious, almost magical force at the time. And Franklin was one of the first people to really try to demystify it, to understand its properties and its potential applications.
Yeah, okay, and then there's his work on the Gulf Stream. Honestly, I didn't even know about this until we started prepping for this deep dive.
Really?
Yeah, so he actually mapped and studied this major ocean current and had this huge impact on shipping, navigation.
And our understanding of weather patterns.
Yeah.
Franklin, he was just fascinated by the natural world. And he wasn't content with just observing it, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to understand it, to map it, to unlock its secrets. And his work on the Gulf Stream is like the perfect example of that.
It's incredible to think about the scope of his interests. From lightning rods to ocean currents, like he was all over the map.
Totally, yeah.
And that, I think, is just one of the most remarkable things about him. He wasn't afraid to jump from one field to another, to just like follow his curiosity wherever it led him. And in doing so, he made these significant contributions to so many different areas of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got the inventor, the scientist, but of course we can't forget about his role as a founding father. I wonder, did his scientific mind, like his approach to problem solving, do you think that played a role in his political endeavors as well?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think it's actually a really important key to understanding his success as a diplomat, a
Yeah.
statesman, and a leader, right?
Yeah.
He brought that same spirit of inquiry, that commitment to finding practical solutions to the world of politics.
So he wasn't just this brilliant mind dreaming up ideas in isolation.
No.
He was actively involved in shaping the world around him. He represented the colonies in England and France. He helped draft the Declaration of Independence.
And played a huge role in the drafting of the U.S. Constitution, too. He was right there at the heart of the founding of this new nation. And it really makes you think, right, how did his experiences as a scientist, as an inventor, as a problem solver, how did that inform his political vision?
Yeah. So we've got this incredible mind, this drive to understand and improve the world. But it wasn't just about the grand inventions and the political achievements, was it?
No, not at all.
He was deeply involved in his community as well.
Absolutely, yeah. This was a guy who really believed in civic duty, in using his knowledge and his resources to benefit others.
Yeah.
He founded the first public library in America.
A fire department, a hospital, a university. This guy never stopped. It's like he had this endless supply of energy and this deep commitment to making a difference in the lives of other people.
He really did, yeah.
It's amazing.
And it's that combination, I think, that makes him such an enduring figure. This intellectual brilliance, this practical ingenuity, and then this deep sense of social responsibility. It's pretty inspiring.
I'm with you on that. But, I'm still kind of stuck on this whole 2 years of formal education.
Yeah.
Thing. It really makes you think about the different paths to knowledge, right?
Totally.
What if he had gone through a traditional education system? Would he have achieved all of this? Or did that lack of formal structure, actually free him in a way?
That's a great question. And it's one we'll keep exploring as we, keep going in our deep dive into the remarkable life of Benjamin Franklin. It really does make you wonder, did that lack of formal schooling maybe actually give him some kind of unique advantage. Maybe it allowed him to think outside the box a bit more,
Mhm.
to be more creative, more innovative.
Well, one of the sources that we were looking at actually suggests that his limited formal education may have been a blessing in disguise. Like, it forced him to be resourceful, right? To kind of forge his own path to knowledge.
Yeah. It's a really interesting idea. Just imagine if he'd been stuck in that really rigid structure of, the traditional education system of the time. Would he have had that same freedom to explore, to pursue such a wide range of interests?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. And, we have to think about the context of the time, too. Like, the Enlightenment was in full swing,
Hmm.
with all this emphasis on reason, science, individual liberty. It seems like Franklin was like perfectly positioned to just embrace those ideas
Oh, absolutely.
and then apply them to his inventions, his scientific work, even his political philosophy.
Totally. He was a man of the Enlightenment through and through.
Yeah.
And I think if we look at his writing, we see that reflected, in his wit, his practicality, that real focus on improving the human condition.
Yeah.
Take Poor Richard's Almanac, for example.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't just this collection of funny sayings and stuff.
Right.
It was full of practical advice on, everything from farming to personal finance.
It was like this guide to like living a successful and virtuous life in colonial America.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's that blend, I think, that's
Yeah.
so fascinating,
Yeah.
right? That blend of intellectual curiosity, but this deep understanding of human nature, too.
Mhm.
And that made him such an effective leader, such a skilled diplomat, and such a great communicator.
Yeah.
He could really connect with people from all walks of life. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Whether he was negotiating treaties with foreign powers or inspiring his fellow colonists to fight for independence, he always seemed to find like the right words, the right approach.
Yeah. And, that's a skill that is just as valuable today as it was back then, too, right?
Oh, for sure.
That ability to communicate these complex ideas clearly, to persuade and inspire people, that's something we could all learn from. But you know what else I find really striking about Franklin?
What's that?
That deep commitment to civic duty. He wasn't content to just achieve personal success.
Right.
He genuinely wanted to make the world a better place.
Yeah, and he didn't just talk about it, he like actually did it, right?
Right.
Think about all the institutions he helped establish. First public library, the fire department, the hospital, the university.
I know. It's amazing.
Like, these weren't just pet projects for him, you know? These were initiatives that were really aimed at improving the lives of everyday people.
Yeah, they were. And they show his belief in the power of education, collaboration, and community involvement.
Yeah.
He understood that progress requires this kind of collective effort, that we all have a role to play in building a better society.
It almost feels like he viewed knowledge and innovation as like tools for social progress, not just personal gain.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Which brings us back to that question of formal education versus like the self-driven learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did his really unconventional path allow him to like approach these big societal issues with a fresh perspective?
Yeah.
Free from the limitations of more like traditional thinking.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating thing to consider. And it has big implications, I think, for how we think about education and personal development, even today, right?
Totally.
Do we need to rethink our emphasis on standardized testing and rigid curricula?
Yeah.
Should we be encouraging more self-directed learning, more hands-on experimentation, more interdisciplinary exploration? I don't know. It's interesting.
Those are some great questions. Food for thought for sure.
Yeah.
But, even beyond those like big questions, I think there are also some smaller, more personal lessons that we can take away from Franklin's life too.
Oh, for sure.
Like, it's never too late to learn, right?
Right.
To pursue our passions, to make a difference in the world around us.
Exactly. And, he didn't just snap his fingers and achieve all of this overnight. It was a lifetime of continuous learning.
Yeah.
Of trial and error.
Yeah.
Of constantly pushing himself beyond his comfort zone.
Yeah.
And even when he faced setbacks, and he did, he never gave up on those ideals.
Yeah.
That commitment to progress.
Yeah. It's pretty inspiring, right? I mean, here's this guy who is just constantly experimenting, adapting, innovating. He wasn't afraid to fail, to try new things, to challenge the status quo. It's almost like he was like a prototype for the modern entrepreneur or something.
Yeah, I see that. And I think that's maybe the most important lesson we can take from Franklin's legacy. It's not just about the specific inventions or the big historical milestones. It's about that mindset,
Right.
that spirit of inquiry and action that just propelled him throughout his whole life.
Yeah. It's about like embracing the unknown, challenging assumptions, always striving to learn and grow,
Hmm.
and using our knowledge and talents not just for personal gain, but to like make society better.
Right. That's a powerful message. And it's as relevant today as it was in Franklin's time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we live in this crazy era of constant change, technological disruption, these really complex challenges.
Totally.
We need more people who embody that, like Franklinian spirit, curious, resourceful, compassionate, and just committed to making a positive impact.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And as we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive into this extraordinary life of Benjamin Franklin, I'm curious, what resonates most with you? Like, what are you taking away from all this?
Hmm. That's a good question.
Mm.
For me, it's that reminder that intellectual curiosity, combined with that commitment to making a positive impact, it can lead to really amazing things. Like, it's just so inspiring to see how one person, even centuries ago, could have such a huge effect on the world.
It really is, and makes you realize that we all have the potential to make a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe not on the scale of a Benjamin Franklin, but in our own communities, our own spheres of influence.
Exactly. It's about, like, finding those problems that spark your curiosity
Mm-hmm.
or those injustices that, like, light a fire in you.
Yeah.
And then using our knowledge, our skills, our creativity to find solutions.
And never underestimating the power of lifelong learning, right?
Oh.
Franklin never stopped seeking new knowledge, new experiences, new ways to improve himself and the world. That's a pretty incredible legacy, you know?
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, right? It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
when you list out all of his accomplishments, it's almost like overwhelming, you know?
Yeah, he seems kind of superhuman.
Yeah, like you almost put him on this pedestal and think, well, I could never do all that.
Oh, totally.
But I think the real takeaway, at least for me, is that it wasn't about being superhuman. It was about this like constant drive to learn and grow and make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something we can all do. I mean, regardless of, our backgrounds, where we came from, our circumstances, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you all with a little challenge.
Okay, I like a good challenge.
Right, here it is. Think about those areas in your own life where you can embrace that, like Franklinian spirit, that spirit of innovation, civic duty. What are you curious about? What are you passionate about? What skills and knowledge do you have that you could use to like make a difference, even in a small way?
Yeah, and remember, I mean, Franklin's life shows us that even those seemingly small actions, when you take them with real purpose and intention, they can have a huge impact.
They really can. They can have this ripple effect. So yeah, I mean, that's it. Go out there, be the change you want to see in the world. Embrace your inner Ben Franklin.
Let's all channel our inner Ben Franklin. Make the world a little brighter, a little more just, a little more innovative.
I love it. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the life of the incredible Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep making a difference.